Welcome back, everybody, to another installment of our look at Monarch: Legacy of Monsters from Apple TV Plus. And I am once again joined by the, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a word to describe you, but like just the all knowledgeable, all foreseeing eye that is Tom Jurassic. How are you
I'll
doing,
take
Tom?
it. Thank you. I'm good, man. I am very excited to talk about this episode, but also in a weird mood. It feels bittersweet that after 10 episodes we're here and this is it for now.
I know, dude. Every time, like a show I'm really into, like rolls credits, or even just during the title sequence, I start to like. That's when I start feeling it. I'm like, oh man, this is the last time I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch this title sequence. This is like, so I gotta pay attention. Like sometimes I'll like look at my phone or do something while watching like the title sequence or whatever, and I won't like pay attention. But I'm like, oh wait, I gotta watch this. I gotta hear this music. Like, I gotta take it all in, and then yeah, by the end of the episode, you're just like you're in such like a rush, but at the same time, like, oh, I have no idea if I'll see anything or when or what. Like, it just have no clue. But at least we do
Yeah.
know, in so many terms that like the saga is continuing in many ways. So I don't feel like we're dead in the water. So I think we got a good shot, for seeing more of this story and then seeing more of other stories in the movies. And not all of the dots were connected that I was hoping for. But like at the end of the day, I was just sitting there watching this and I'm like, man, like this is incredible. Like there was one
It was
sequence
so good.
towards the end that was so crazy that I'm like, well, I can't believe I'm watching this right now. Like this is
Yeah.
just absolutely crazy. And um like specifically watching like the performances in this episode, I was like, man,
Yes.
they treated us so well. They casted this so well. They gave us people that really care about this and acted
Yeah.
their damn hearts out, and it was awesome. They really killed it. Everybody did such a
I
good
did
job.
actually cry at one point in the episode,
Yeah.
because it was that good, and like I think it's interesting because I've watched this episode twice, and it goes by so quickly. But
Hmm.
when you break it down, there isn't actually a lot that happens. A lot of it focuses on two characters specifically, but the way that that dynamic is handled is so emotionally impactful. It's really, really good.
Yeah, yeah. Any thing to mention before we dive into the scene by scene breakdown? Anything else you got?
Give us season two, please.
Yes, yes. So we need that right now. But give us that announcement at least. Like let us have something to look forward to. Because that was so good. That was so good. But this episode, episode 10, and even by the time we got to the final moments of the episode, I actually like went back to Apple TV and I'm like, all right, let me just like double check, and I like read the description and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it says season finale, but I'm like the way it ends, I'm like this doesn't end like a the end of a show or anything. So I'm like, ah man, I was like hoping I was mistaken and that there would be like another episode, but there was not. But this was episode 10. What was the title of this? Beyond Disbelief or something? Did you
Beyond Logic.
Beyond Logic? Okay, yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Beyond Logic. And so this one kicks off, uh, which we didn't really get an answer for this, but it kind of. There was a slight discussion on this, but we are in the Hollow Earth in quotes because we don't really know still. I don't feel like I have a good inkling. You might, maybe you do. I still feel
I
like it's up in the air.
I think that we are in Axis Mundi.
Okay. Yeah, which is
Uh,
that in between state or whatever you
in
were saying, right?
between, yeah. It's interesting because there's some other iconography I hadn't picked up on with it at first, but it's also referred to as the place between heaven and earth, or like heaven and hell or something. So
Mhm.
it's like the between world between the evil and the good, which kind of makes sense when you think about the Hollow Earth and all of the horror that's happened in that world. But there's a line. I wrote it down. Let me just find it quickly.
Yeah, I do remember there
Keiko says
was.
at some point, she says that it's um the world between worlds because she says we're not in the Titans world, we're somewhere in between.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, maybe she did. Maybe they did answer it, and I was just not paying attention.
Yeah, she says it's a place between places. I call it Axis Mundi.
Okay, all right. I can buy that then. That makes sense because visually, and I feel like even more so in this episode, it didn't like resemble what we see in Godzilla versus
Yeah,
Kong really at all. I had said last episode that there was like a shot where you do see like a mountaintop and stuff. So I was like, all right, maybe this is like just nighttime in the in the Hollow Earth, or I don't even know if there's a nighttime in the Hollow Earth. I have no idea, but like I'm like, okay, maybe that's what that is. But the just like looking at the scenery and everything in this episode, it just felt so different, and like that's
yeah,
what I was like. It feels like it's something else to me. But that's we'll get into that more, I think, in a little bit. We're in that in between. I'm just I'm probably gonna call it Hollow Earth, but like they go in and Kate is looking in disbelief when she sees Keiko right there,
yeah,
and everybody's a bit shocked, I think, in this moment. And one thing I loved, and talking about like the way things looked, there was just such great lighting in this sequence.
yes,
The lighting was all behind them. It's dark, but there's still some spots of light dripping through, and then there's like
yeah,
fireflies just like flying around. Oh, it
yes,
just looked so good. But this is like not much happens. It's a very quick opening scene, and basically just a little bit of shock and disbelief. And Kate is screaming like, "We have to go back and find them!" And then Keiko's like, "We have to keep moving." So like
yeah.
there's nobody really. Kate knows what's going on right here. She sees Keiko, and she's obviously realizing who she is. But Keiko's like, "Who are you? Let's go. We need to go." It
I
was a
do
nice
like
little
how
opening
in this
sequence.
sequence she's like Keiko is very in control of things,
Mhm.
and she's quite calm and collected. So that then juxtaposes later in the episode as she sort of her character develops.
Yeah. We do quickly cut to Tokyo, and we have Kentaro and Hiroshi are chatting about
Yeah,
the work, and he's like, I'm doing it for my parents and stuff because they like established Monarch, and they did so much work, and he's like, I need to do this for them and stuff. And he basically requests like Kentaro's help. I could use
yeah.
you as helping solve the problem of coexistence between these worlds. And Kentaro's like, I don't really, I still don't really want to help. He again questions, like, they don't really speak. They're not very vocal about what anybody's talking about in this sequence. So I don't know if love the writing throughout this whole episode, but
Mm.
um, they were very like just beating around the bush in so many circumstances. And Kentaro's questioning basically like, why did you have another family? And his dad doesn't really give him an answer, I feel like, in this moment. And he basically said like, well, what would you rather, you not exist, or our family to not be a family?
Yeah.
And he's like, we're not a family. Like that's what I'm trying to say. And he basically just walks out of the room without getting any kind of real answers. So I don't know if he just like realizes his dad's not going to talk to him any further about anything, or he's just sick of it. But he walks out before he gets any true answers from his dad, I feel like.
He does. I found it interesting that he does quite literally say to Kentaro that they're working on the secret of coexistence, because
Hmm.
obviously coexistence is a big theme that we see in Serizawa's character. So it was really interesting seeing how you have Hiroshi working along the same line of thought essentially, but because he's embraced some technology that Monarch doesn't believe in, he's sort of shunned from the organization. Whereas you know that in other parts of the organization, you have people working towards very similar goals, but because they're doing it in a different way, they're allowed to continue. I just thought that kind of dichotomy in terms of the fact that they are both very much working towards similar goals but doing it in different ways was quite interesting in sort of seeing
Yeah.
Monarch's acceptance of those approaches.
Yeah, the two characters' storylines, Serizawa and Hiroshi, they definitely diverge, but they're on the same kind of path in a way. Like they're still thinking about the same things, and uh, it is interesting though that they decided to not even focus on Serizawa at all, not have him be a part of this story.
Yeah,
even though he would have been doing a lot of work during this time period, and it'll be interesting. I hope, like, I hope he comes into this storyline in like a second season, but it's interesting. It would have been cool if, like, maybe they gave, I forget what Serizawa's total backstory is, like, if he ever talks about family or anything like that. But that would have been cool if they did give him that role and, like,
Yeah.
make him the Hiroshi character. That would have been pretty cool.
Well,
Um,
he has Ren, who ends up working for Apex, so there is a family connection there because his son
oh
is
yeah, yeah,
working
yeah.
for Apex Godzilla
That's
versus
right.
Kong.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but all these stories are gonna just have to clash at some point into
Yeah,
one another, because by the end of it you kind of understand why they're not the same character, because they've diverged and uh come head to head with Apex. So but yeah, it's this is an interesting character. I'm still not, I was hoping for maybe a little bit more of a payoff, I think, with that character, but
yeah.
he's just kind of a disappointing character, I think, at the end of the day, but maybe there will be some good
Just
payoff
like
if
he's
they're,
a disappointing father.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Wait, what'd you say? I couldn't hear you.
Just like he's a disappointing father.
Oh, my sound is down. Oh, I had the perfect sound clip. Oh man, we were that close to greatness. Uh, I wish I do. I have like a no, I don't think I do. Yeah. Anyway, we do cut back to the in between, and Keiko mentions that she created this signal based off that machine, and um she realizes that Kate is not part of Monarch, and, like, who are you? What are you doing here? And basically, as soon as that comes to head, May just appears out of nowhere, walks through the forest. I'm getting a lot of like Isla Sorna vibes from
Yeah,
this forest at this point. It feels like the redwoods and, like, downed trees, and, like, so I'm feeling like it's like Isla Sorna at this point. But May appears out of nowhere, and this is like an interesting sequence, a very interesting sequence, and Lee is like, "Keiko, is that you?" Like, he's just like, just sitting behind a tree for way too long. But I
yeah,
kind of get it, because he has not seen this person in a long, long time, and the other person, Keiko, has not seen him for just 57 days. So it hasn't been
yeah,
too long for her. So it's going to be hard to introduce yourself back to this person who you've been away from for so many years. But he calls out to her. He's hiding behind this tree, trying to kind of get her to understand the situation a little bit before he reveals himself. And she, like I said, estimates that she's been down there for 57 days. And I'm like, oh,
yeah.
it's gonna be brutal. It's gonna be brutal. Um, but it starts to dawn on Keiko, and she realizes, like, the gravitational distortion has truly messed up her life. Like,
Yeah.
and you can see it all on her face as she's acting. Like, it is just a brilliant sequence.
It's
And
incredibly well acted.
yeah, so well. Just like, she's not really saying much of anything at this point. She's kind of just, like, feeling it all and wearing it all on
Yeah,
her sleeve, and it's very obvious. And then she finds out that Bill died a long time ago, and Kate is her granddaughter, and the emotion was just so real, dude. Like, and
yeah,
I'm like, whoa, she got hit with, it's been however many years since she disappeared, that her partner, who was basically, her husband in a way, I guess, like, and watching her son and caring for her family, like, he's dead. He died a long
yeah,
time ago. And that, like, it's funny because she thought about Bill first, and then, like, it took her a minute, and then she's like, Hiroshi? Wait.
yeah,
And he's okay. Luckily, she finds out he's okay. And how do you know? How do you know? Well, because he's my father, and I'm your granddaughter. And so she's learning so many things in this moment, and it's just like in her mind, it's just 57 days later, and Like,
Yeah.
the amount of information has got to be just destroying her. So that was just such a real moment, and I loved every bit of acting from her in this moment. So that was really great.
It was honestly so well handled. Like the rapport between her and Kurt Russell was amazing, and it felt so just emotionally heavy. Like you could really get the sense that this is a character who feels like she has lost so much because of this time travel. And I love the way you sort of see Keiko's inner workings as a scientist, where she's kind of running over it in her brain, and she then says the sentence like you picked up on about the gravitational pull. And she says gravitational distortion causes a warping of space time, and you can see her like processing it in real time. I just thought that was really cool how organically handled it was to really sort of ground this character realizing that she's very much out of her time now.
Well, it's great because you know how smart these people are, and like, she even has that moment where it's like, so you're saying it's 2015 or whatever, and
Yeah,
Lee was like, "You've always been great with numbers, okay?"
yeah,
And the whole gravitational pull, like she's able to figure this out in 2 seconds flat, and realizes, like, it's almost like it didn't even dawn on her until this moment, and she's like, "Oh my god, you're right, like, I'm screwed. I just lost all these years." And but seriously, shout out to, and I had to look it up because I don't really know anybody's name from this show, but Mari Yamamoto plays Dr. Keiko Mura. So fantastic work there, and
yeah. It
yeah,
was incredible.
just brilliant stuff. Um, but yeah, that was such a emotional moment, and just the start of all the emotion that you really get
Yeah,
here. We do cut back to well, what also I want to mention that, like, I was getting so many Back to the Future vibes from this episode because they talk about the gravitational
yeah.
distortion, and there's a lot of that in
My
Back to the
God.
Future. They talk about, like, what is the is the Earth heavy? Is there something wrong with the gravitational pull? Like, so they're talking about that. And then 2015 is the year that they go to the future in the second movie. So I was just feeling Back to the Future vibes from this one.
Yeah,
But we are back at the Monarch headquarters, and Tim is worried about Duvall, and like, have we heard from her? We haven't heard from her yet. But and surprising, we didn't hear from her at all, and I don't think we
no,
saw her at the end or anything.
no, we
But
didn't. She's just out there somewhere.
yeah, somewhere. So it gives us something to look forward to. But Tim's also worrying about that signal, and like, we need to figure out what's going on. There could be people down there alive, and Verdugo isn't concerned with that at the moment.
Verdugo is an idiot.
Verdugo is concerned about the worldwide consequences. Everybody, it seems like there's a lot. They show the map. There's like a lot of, I guess the rifts are just going crazy around the world. So yeah, you mentioned that she is an idiot. And I think like her and the mentality of Monarch, absolutely. I don't know if this is the
Mm.
moment though. Like, I'm not sure if this is the moment that she's an idiot, because I feel like at this moment in time, like, she might be thinking with her head, like, clearly, because I don't need to
Yeah,
focus on what's going on inside. We need to focus on what is happening right here and now. But at the same time, I don't know if I have confidence that they are going to truly focus on it the way it should be handled, because they haven't really shown that they could before this.
yeah.
So that's what I'm worried about. But
I think the big thing for me with this sequence was every time she's listened to Tim, it's proven to be the right thing to do. So for her to then get to this point where actually, there's clearly a signal coming from inside as Barnes has detected, and for her to just completely discredit that in favor of the other thing seems quite, it seems like a poor decision. Like in that kind of organization, surely you would have the capacity to, worst case scenario, deal with both priorities at the same time because they're interconnected. But she seems to have gone back to that mindset that we see at the start of the series, which I think is really the flaw of Monarch, which is anytime it's something that they literally can't see on the surface level, in this case, they literally see it on the surface of the earth, they're not too concerned about it, and that's what got them into the mess in the first place. So I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting because that flaw of the character and the flaw of the organization sets up perfectly for how the series concludes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of flaws in this organization, and that's one of the questions I didn't necessarily get answered. I don't think throughout this show is like they've really focused on how Monarch, you know, didn't react appropriately, and you know, I don't think I really had that thought process too much while watching the movies. Really, um, I feel like, you know, they did the best with what we were shown. Um, but yeah, this show just shows that like they've been behind the ball on everything. But in this moment, I don't know that they are. I'm not totally sure because it seems like she wants to at least focus on what the priority is. And it's kind of like, do we save the many or do we save the few? Like, do we save these few
Yeah.
people that might be in the center, or do we, you know, save the entire planet, or think about that at least? So, I'm kind of on her side here, I think. But at the same time, like, there's just not a good history there for me
You're
to
the kind of
believe.
person who would wear a Thanos was right t-shirt, Brad.
Yeah, well, that's you know, I mean, hey. I'm gonna join up with that crew in King of the Monsters. I think, you know, they're basically the Thanos of this universe.
I
Um,
am. I'm gonna hit you with a random little theory. What if that's where Duval's gone?
could be, could be.
Mm,
Um, yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Because they're gonna take things to the extreme, but at the same time, Duval was really concerned with people and saving things. So I don't
mm.
know. Like, but that so is that group, you know, so is that group in that movie. Like that is their ultimate goal, is to save the planet and save the people there, but you know, while sacrificing half the population. So yeah, who knows? But they kind of leave us in this scene with like a will they won't they situation, and you know, Verdugo basically gives an ultimatum. It's like, you can go sit down and help us, or you know, I could extend your medical leave indefinitely
Yeah,
and get you out of here. And they just leave us there. And we all know what the outcome's going to be. You know, Tim's not a total rule follower here, but we don't get that answer just yet because Hollow Earth or whatever it is back. And Keiko is, you know, leads them to the beacon and mentions that like she rewired it so that it sends that signal. And she actually gets a chance to ask Kate about Hiroshi and like get to tell him what he's like and stuff.
yeah.
Um, and out of
I
nowhere,
like
he's
that
like,
Kate doesn't tell her that he's ruined two families.
I know. That was part of the struggle for me. Like, I want to feel the emotion about Hiroshi, but like at the same time, he's just not a great person totally. And I
Yeah,
don't know. Like, I know it's like a deeper, you know, dilemma just because like of what he is trying to accomplish, and you know, how fractured his life has been, but at the same time he's leaving a fractured legacy too, so it's like it's tough. It's a very you know, difficult situation, I think. And
yeah.
I did think about that too. I'm like, well, you didn't tell him like, is he happy? And my straight up answer was like, it doesn't seem like it. Like, it doesn't seem like
No,
he's doing very good. Uh, so yeah, but Lee comes out and is like, hey, Keiko, do you think you can like rewire this back to the original configuration? I've got an idea. So yeah, we all know where that was headed. So we
going
do cut.
Titan surfing.
What's that?
Going Titan surfing.
Oh, I like it. Yeah. We go back to Tokyo, and Hiroshi's taking things out of like Kentaro's house with his mom there and everything. And there was some mention of a divorce, and you know that he's going to be going back to San Francisco. And these are those moments that you had mentioned early on where like not a lot is happening. There's just like little bits of dialogue and, you know, stuff to
Yeah.
relay, but like he's basically just leaving, taking all his things. Half of his stuff was already thrown out because he was dead, you know, like he was gone.
Imagine how
Um,
awkward it's going to be for him when he gets back to San Francisco and finds out that his other wife has got a new partner.
yeah, I know, right? And he's like super young, right? Wasn't he like a younger dude or something? I
Yeah,
thought, but yeah, it'll be interesting, and I mean, he's got to deal with it. He's got to reckon with the choices that he made. I tell my kids that all the time.
goes and
You
sits in
make
the
these choices,
abandoned
you got to deal
office
with it.
in the quarantine zone for the rest of his life.
Yeah, you're right. Wait, how's he in there? I never thought about that. What is he doing in there so easily? Like, and then Tim and Kentaro are like, "Hey, we're here too." did 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 the mom drive them in? Do you think?
Oh, no. That's the office in Tokyo. I'm talking
Oh,
about
that's
the
the
office
office in
in San
Tokyo.
Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. That's right. Okay. Um, yeah, but at this point when they were in the house, like they basically say like you need to let Kentaro into your life and like, let him know where
Yeah.
you're going and what you're doing and stuff. So, not
She's
a
so
crazy huge
ruthless.
scene,
She's
but
like, keep in touch with Kentaro, but go, and then puts the wedding ring on the box. And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my god.
Yep. With the other crew now is struggling to carry that beacon. Nothing really happens there. They're just basically dropping it on the ground. But back to Tokyo, Kentaro's at a bar, and we see him drawing like a little diagram of the Earth and on different
Yeah,
napkins and things and potential locations. And Tim shows up. Tim quits Monarch. He's done. He's out of it. And he's like,
he's out of
yeah.
there.
He's like, hey, guess what? There's a signal
The king has
happening, and I
left
need
the
your
castle.
yeah. He's like, I need your help, but not your help, your dad's help. So could you get me in touch with your dad? And yeah, so not
Kentaro's like story in the second half of this series has basically become, "Hey kid, can you connect us with somebody you know? Because you can't actually do
yeah.
anything."
I know, like I feel bad because I was thinking about it a lot during this episode that like I did really enjoy his storyline, and then they just straight up like dropped it, I feel like, and
Mhm.
dropped the ball on his writing and everything because he was doing a great job, but then they just gave him like almost nothing to work with.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I hope
After that
that's
scene in the back of the car with him, Kate, and May, it all went downhill.
yeah, yeah, seriously. So, but there were some great storylines that picked up off of that. It's just that like I thought like he would be more of a prominent focus, and then
Yeah,
they switched it on us, and that's cool. But like I kind of wish there was better reckoning with his character.
yeah,
Um, back with Lee and Keiko, they're actually like sharing a drink from like some sort of weird like mug thing that Keiko made in the in between, and they talk about how she looks exactly the way she's always looked in his head, and she talked about
I was like,
how
"Oh, so he's been thinking about her a lot, has he?"
oh yeah, of course, of course. And she's been thinking about them over the past 57 days and like talking to them in her head and stuff. And she asks what happened to Billy, and he gives as much information as he can, but like he tells us basically like the story of Skull Island in a short
Yeah,
fashion, and say like he didn't come back from that, but his journey out there really saved Monarch, and I thought that was great. That
yeah.
was a really nice thing to hear, that that trip was worth something, because I think we were talking about it.
Yeah, we were,
We did talk about like what was that trip worth? Did anything really come out of that?
yeah,
Because Monarch isn't really doing anything with this information, but it did at least save the company. So
yeah.
for whatever that is worth. But she cries again
Yeah,
about
this
losing
is
so
what
much
we were
time,
talking
and
about last week, because we
mhm.
were talking about how Monarch had such a large presence in the 80s again when Shaw came back, and it's directly because of the trip to Skull Island.
Mhm. Yeah. Um yeah, I feel bad that she didn't get to see any of this, and she wasn't there to sway things, cuz like we said, Monarch would be a totally different company or organization if she was still involved and they still had their ways, but it turned into something completely different. And you can see her just being totally wrecked again. She's crying about it, and he she asks about like what is the world like, and we get a nice little thing, and I was like, yeah. I was thinking of my own answer as far as like what would you say in that moment, and he basically said it. You got
I'd be
what did he
like,
say?
don't compare the
Moms and
water, it's
dads
not
and
worth
kids.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, he said,
When he said about the
conflict.
mums and dads and kids, I was like, "Sure, are you really trying again?"
Ah, yeah, I know. But he's like, "Well, we got a couple of kids back there, and he might help, so, I'll be right back." But yeah, it was a sweet, touching moment between the 2 of them, and, yeah, but, I liked it, I liked it. But,
Yeah,
we do get a nice, interesting scene in the next one. We go back to Hiroshi, and he's in that
yeah.
office, and he's watching that Skull Island footage, so we do get,
Dude, I always love stuff like this when, like, you get the first scene from a series and it's replayed in the final episode. I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah, I forgot how much we actually ended up seeing initially. So I forget if there was, like, more footage. I
Yeah,
think
there
there
was
was,
more because
right?
it has the battle with the crab and the, giant spider, Mother Longlegs, on the, like, beach where he then throws it into the
Oh,
water.
no, no, yeah, 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 but did we see that video before? Like, I
Yes,
forget, yeah,
I think we
yeah,
did, yeah.
but, like, yeah, I wasn't sure if the video portion had more information or revealed something, but it didn't really seem to reveal anything new. I was kinda
No.
hoping, like, oh, it'd be cool if they revealed, like, a cool thing in
"I'm
this
still
video, but
alive, kid, I'm just sitting in a cave on Skull Island."
yeah, I know, right? And we were kind of just talking about this a few minutes ago, but John Goodman, we get that cameo here, and that was really awesome. And you basically sent like a gif of him getting eaten in Skull Island, and it
Yeah,
was just like like that TV show, that movie really did a great job of just killing people off unceremoniously
yeah.
too, like giving them like some comical deaths, some just absolutely crazy deaths. And his wasn't as bad as the one dude that like thought he was saving the full group,
Oh,
and
the guy with the
you know
grenades when he just
he had the
gets battered
grenades.
against the cliff.
He gets
Yeah,
thrown like miles into a cliff and then
yeah.
explodes, and it's like, God, that was not the way you thought that was gonna go. But he does get a kind of embarrassing death too, just sitting there and just getting chomped by one of the skull walkers or whatever they're called. Um,
Yeah,
and it's just like, oh man, just it was making me think about like the trajectory of this storyline and this franchise, and how consequential did they plan on Bill Randa being back
yeah,
when this movie was made? Because I feel like if they were gonna make him this consequential character that we have today, uh, in 2017, didn't they just like kind of unceremoniously just killed him off and just
yeah.
left it at that? So like, I don't
He
know,
probably
would
would
that
have
have
been
happened?
left
But if
alive if they'd planned it all along.
yeah, I don't know if he would have been left alive or just given like a more fitting send off, like
He
something
would
that
have
was a
been the
little
one
bit.
battered into the cliff.
Oh gosh, I hope not. But something a little bit more emotional, maybe. I don't know. Like, but again, just makes me wonder about this franchise in a good way, and just wonder like, wow, they took
Yeah,
this character that like maybe they didn't fully care about back then, and just really turned him into something pretty cool, and
made it something
gave him a
special, yeah,
storyline that fleshed out looks really beautiful.
yeah,
So yeah, I thought that was pretty nice that we got to see Bill Randa again, and hey, the chances are that Keiko can now, spoilers, but Keiko can see that footage. That would
yeah.
be interesting to see. But anyway, we're at that office, and Hiroshi's watching that footage, and Tim and Kentaro show up and
I
tell
love
him,
that we get to see Tim and Hiroshi interact and, like, Hiroshi actually acknowledging Tim and acknowledging their relationship a little bit.
yeah, saying like, "Oh, you've always had you know, a soft
Yeah,
spot for my family," or something like that. I forget exactly what he
yeah,
said, but they basically tell him about the signal that there's a chance somebody's down there still, and he's so reluctant. Like this guy, like this is why I
yeah,
struggle with this character, because like I don't know, dude. Like if I heard that my kid fell into a hole into the earth and it potentially is sending a signal, and wherever this signal is coming from, and he's just like, I don't know if I should join. I don't know if that's a good like, why, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm like, dude, jump up and go now, man. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Like, so, man, it's just, he just angers me, this guy. Like, he's just, again, like earlier when he was calling for Godzilla with that machine, and like just saw his family standing up on that cliff and just like, "Vroom, I'm out of here. Bye."
Yeah.
And just like left them. Like, dude, this guy, I don't know if they're trying to paint him to be this terrible person, but they really are in my head. It's like, man,
Child
subtly.
protection services are definitely involved in the background.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know if they're like, these kids are too old. We don't care anymore. Uh, but we get a really, really great moment at the end of this. Like I said, he's reluctant to join. He doesn't want to join Monarch, and Tim's like, "Hey, but guess what? I quit Monarch." And
Yeah.
just so you
Monarch
know,
isn't
Monarch,
the only game in town.
they aren't the only game in town. And I was like,
The second he
"Oh,
said that, I was like, "Tim, don't you dare!"
yeah, we all know
I was
where
like,
that's
"Tim,
going."
no."
And it's
Oh wait,
it's
so you
just so
actually knew where it
interesting.
was going this time?
I did, yeah. I knew where the story was
Okay.
going. Yeah. There was a few moments where I was like, "Yep, I know where we're headed." But yeah, Tom has treated me well over the course of this show, and really, you rewired my brain a little bit, I think.
Good,
Um,
good.
but yeah, so back to the other crew, and they're carrying that beacon again. And there was a really cool moment here where like I forget exactly how it played out, but Kate's talking about how like she fell, into
Yeah,
this portal, and Lee's basically like, how do you know you fell and didn't
yeah,
enter? And I was like,
yeah,
that's to me where I was like, there's this theory in my mind that I've been thinking about too, which really like it talks about what you were talking about and the Axis Mundi, all of it all. Um and I was just like, yeah, like what if this is just like, do we know that this stuff is in Earth, like in any form or fashion? Like, is there a
good
chance
question.
that this has nothing to do with Earth? Like, I assume that when they say this is the hollow Earth, that they have their science figured out, and that like they can map it and see like, yeah, I'm in the
Yeah,
center. But like, I don't know if I've gotten that confirmation. Have we gotten that confirmation?
I've seen some sort of drawings of what people think it could work like, which I think makes a lot of sense, which is the idea that you have your hollow portal tunnels, and then Axis Mundi is like an offshoot of that. So if you were going down towards the hollow earth, it's like a midway point if you don't have a portal that goes all the way through. And that kind of makes sense with how you see the portal intercepted at the end of this episode, because not to spoil the organization that does it, although it's quite obvious, but it's quite clear that that portal wasn't going to come back out there, and it's like deviated off course.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that's kind of showing that the portals can zigzag and go in different places and everything.
Yeah, so in my mind, I'm like, is it Earth's surface, and
Yeah,
then this Axis Mundi, and then
I
Hollow
think so,
Earth,
yes.
and then
Yeah,
again Axis Mundi, and then Earth's surface? Or is it like Earth's surface, Hollow Earth, and then Axis Mundi is like the moon, like somewhere else
yeah.
completely? Like, is it possible that this portal just doesn't even lead to the middle of Earth? Like, so
So
that was just a theory that I was thinking about. I don't know.
I think it makes sense for it to be a passing through place,
Mhm.
because think about the, like we spoke about last week, the fauna in Access Mundi. So that pig-like creature looks very much like the creatures on Kong Skull Island. So if you think about the fact that we know that there's a rift on Skull Island, it makes sense that they're coming through from that passing place and passing through. And it also makes sense in the context of Skull Island, because if you think about it, Kong has never discovered the Hollow Earth before, because that portal on Skull Island just goes through to the Axis Mundi as well. It doesn't go further. That's what I
Hmm.
would suggest.
Okay. All right. I don't know, man. it's it's a lot.
Legendary, if you need somebody to try and solidify your law, I am not the man for the job.
Oh, no, no. No, yeah, definitely not me. But I did love that conversation that they were having about, like, did we fall into some portal or did we
Yeah,
enter? Like, and the entering portion was like, did we enter into some realm that is not even of this earth? That
yeah,
had me thinking about that a little bit. They walked themselves all the way to Lee's old pod, which I thought was cool. I don't know how the
yes,
heck they found that, but I guess because the rift, and they said something about, if anybody's going to come through, they're going to come through near the rift. So I guess that's why they walked all the way out to that spot, and he powers it back up after however many years. And I like that little like exchange that Keiko's like, it's only been a few weeks. Like, of course it works. It's
yeah.
fine.
It's
But that was cool.
an interesting thing in the fact that actually it's the monarch before everything went wrong as well, that is the monarch that's saving them when you think about it in that context. Like,
Hmm.
this is monarch in the 80s when they had all the government backing. It's that technology from the pocket days that is saving them.
Well, the 60s actually, 62,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, yeah, you're
So,
right.
yeah, but that was really cool. I liked seeing it, and like we mentioned it last time, but just how like they were walking towards that pod in the first episode, the last episode, and it was like very much like watching astronauts walk to their pod. And
Yeah,
there was even that mention in the one of the last scenes where, like, he's like, "Hey, we went to the moon." I didn't
yeah,
see it. I wasn't there, but we did it.
yeah,
And I was like, "Oh, this is great." And she was just like, "What? Like, seriously? Oh my god!" But yeah, visually looks so much like that, and it's so cool to see him just like power that thing right back on. And we do know that there is a monster nearby somewhere. They can like hear it. And this is where things start to just start spiraling like pretty
yeah,
pretty crazily. So Keiko and Lee are basically arguing. All of a sudden, it just erupts like out of nowhere. She's like, I can do it. I'm fine. And then she's like, I'm staying. And I'm like, no,
yeah,
this is like, I never really like that. That trope of like, I'm
yeah.
staying behind. It's just such like an overused trope, and it like every
It's
time that
interesting.
somebody says that, I get emotionally disconnected from that moment.
Yeah. I get that, but I found it interesting because I think it separates her from Hiroshi's character so beautifully. Because you have
Hmm.
Hiroshi, who's been quite selfish in how like behaved. He's
Sure, yeah.
destroyed both his families, and he's not particularly remorseful for that. And then you have this character who makes a point of saying, and I wrote it down. She says, "Billy's gone, and my boy grew up without me." And then she's like, "He's lost me once. I'm not gonna go back and cause that like trauma again." And I just like how that juxtaposes this other character, like her son, who is not particularly remorseful at all, and then her, who clearly is a very emotionally led character. I thought was quite cool to see.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really I wanted to see her reaction to finding out about his family so badly.
I well, maybe we'll get that chance, but I did like her saying that it's not her world anymore, and I felt for
Yeah,
her, like all those emotions that she was feeling, like, you know, it's not her world. It's a completely different place, and she left it behind. Her son grew up without her, didn't need her. That's got to be a hard feeling. But
yeah,
I love that Kate, butts into the situation. Is like, no, you're coming with us. The
yeah. I've
monsters have
lost
taken
enough.
way too much from me. They're not taking you again. Like, so it's the inverse of that. It's like, yeah. So they all get in the pod, and um, they've already lured a Titan there, but it's not one from a
Yes.
different, it's not one from the
Yes.
Rift. It's just one that was there, and
So this is a really cool line because
yeah,
it's saying that the Iron Bat lives in Axis Mundi, and obviously we've seen that other creature that lives there, and we know there's more because Keiko says it's their territory. So I love that in that line, plus Keiko's line, and seeing the creature in the previous episode, we know that there's a whole ecosystem inside this world between worlds as well. That's just so awesome to think about the potential for that. And I know I keep harkening on about it, but I think it would be so cool if they said, actually, the wildlife that's on Skull Island came from the Axis Mundi, because that just makes perfect sense in my head now.
yeah, yeah, that would be cool to see. and maybe I think there's a good chance we could get that kind of confirmation. But the Titan, the dragon thing, just keeps attacking,
Yeah.
and of course it has to. And we, as the sequence was happening, and they lock themselves in, and they're getting ready to go. I'm like, we all know what's gonna happen here.
Yep.
We know exactly what's gonna happen, and it played
Predicted
out
it word
exactly the way.
for
Yep.
word.
So basically, the dragon knocks off a cable, and that was again another Back to the Future moment where that is exactly what happens in Back to the Future. It's like that tree falls, knocks the cable, and then Doc has to go and plug them back together. The cable even looked identical to the cable in Back to the Future. That's why I was like, oh my god. Also, they can get back to 2015.
Yeah.
But of course, Lee's like, I got to go do this. He runs out there. He said, I'm doing my job. And, that was always really important to him, was doing
Yeah.
his job, which I thought was a nice little callback to, the old Lee Shaw, or the young, I guess, the young Lee Shaw. But, he, because during this whole time, the reason they need to get that plugged in is because they're calling another Titan through the portal. They can see it getting closer and closer, but then, oh no, they're losing it. They're losing it. You got to plug it back in. And they plug it back in, and man, we get just an absolutely fantastic sequence of events here. We get,
Dude, the
you
shots.
hear the roar of
Yeah.
Godzilla, and you see Godzilla
You have
just
like Keiko look up because she recognizes it. You have Lee
uh
looking up as well.
Godzilla walks through that awesome looking
Dude, I've
portal
seen that
thing.
shot gifted so many times online and it looks incredible.
Ah, yeah. Luckily, I didn't see anything before this, and yeah, I haven't touched the internet too much after to see all the
Yeah.
reactions or anything. But like, I can't wait for the conversation, I think, about this moment, because this was just a battle that was just on par with anything we've seen from the movies. It was
Yeah.
totally like straight from any of those movies. Um, that and by the way, that dragon, like I was like, whoa, this thing is huge.
Yeah.
Because like I don't think it's the same monster that we saw in that ship, the Lawton, right?
Yes. The Lawton,
But
yeah.
that one, that was small, right? Like that was not nearly as big as this one felt,
I
because
think
this
it had
one,
grown definitely.
yeah, maybe if it was the same one, I don't know, but like, um, and Kong is actually that same way. Like that, Kong was much smaller, and then grew out like in the course of like
Yeah.
well, I guess it wasn't a few years. It was from the 70s to like the 2017 or whatever, or, later, I guess, 2023. So Kong grew up like significantly in that amount of time. So maybe this thing did too, but
Yeah.
because that was from what I don't 55 or something, like 40, somewhere
Yeah.
in that range. So it did, yeah, I guess it could have gotten bigger into 2015. Yeah, for
And
sure.
that in it, the whole thing is a potential story, isn't it? Because we know they grow when they feed on radiation. So has that like attacked a nuclear plant or a nuclear
Yeah.
submarine or something?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, but I was like, "Whoa, dude, this thing is huge," to the point where I was like, I was like, "Oh, a different monster's shown up." I thought there was
Yeah.
like, I was confused for a second because I thought there was another monster, but no, it was just that thing being so incredibly big. And it like lingers over the pod for a little bit,
Yeah.
but Godzilla just it attacks Godzilla, rips into Godzilla's neck, and then Godzilla takes that
Yeah.
and just throws it around and smashes it and rips off its wing and throws it into the rift, and just like it creates that portal. And dude, what an awesome sequence of events. That was just such a great battle. Absolutely
It
loved
was
it.
so cool. So they in one of the trailers that they released, they'd shown a clip of the Iron Bat fighting Godzilla, but I thought it was going to happen like on the surface world somewhere. So
Ah,
when I realized that it was taking place in Axis Mundi, I was like, "This is freaking insane!"
yeah,
Like, it's just such a cool environment to have a fight in.
yeah.
And then obviously him throwing it through opening the portal was really cool as well, because that kind of I just like the idea of half of the bat appearing somewhere out of nowhere
Oh,
and just landing.
yeah. Maybe that went the other way down the portal. Who knows where? Yeah. but that was just such an epic sequence. That's a moment that I need to go back and watch, like, from this scene onwards, just because there's some really
Yeah.
great stuff. But
So
they do.
we need to touch on the fact that during this, as you wait, you're about to go into it, so continue.
Yeah. So as usual, it creates that vacuum, and we saw that in a previous episode that, like, the portal pulls in,
Yeah.
and it starts to pull the pod, and Lee's still out there, in typical emotional fashion. He's running to catch up. Come on, I can do it, and he grabs onto Keiko's hand, and I got you, don't, no, I'm holding it down. My weight is too heavy,
Thank you,
apparently.
Keiko, for what? Everything.
Everything, and then goodbye.
Yeah.
He falls. He falls. Did he
He
fall, or
falls.
did he enter? I don't know. But we'll have to wait to see, because I don't think he's gone for good.
I don't think so.
I think Keiko looked out the window, and, like, you didn't really
It's
see
the
much of
traditional
anything.
rule of thumb, isn't it? If you don't see a character die on screen, they're not dead.
Yeah, exactly. And I've watched enough Fast and Furious movies to know that you could fall, and people will think you're dead for a long time, but you are not actually dead. And he is in
But
those movies.
this isn't a Universal production, Brad.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, who knows? But he falls to his death. Maybe we'll see. But
Yeah.
they do get in, like, fully back into the pod, and then go through the portal, and they end up somewhere, and
Yeah.
it was an interesting sequence. Like, I don't
Can
know
I
why they did it this way, but yeah, go ahead, mention whatever you're talking about.
I there were two things I noted straight away, and that was first the way like there's somebody interfering with the portal, because you see the pod get plucked out and it, like, pulls away from the portal and comes out in a different place. So that's kind of your first indicator that there's something else at foot here. But then
Hmm.
the thing I found really interesting was the level to which this organization, who we will reveal in a second, was able to plan for it. Because when you look at the staging area they'd built, they had the device that opened the portal, but then they literally had a triangle, like, landing area for the pod to
Yeah.
arrive in. So they had, like, you could tell immediately that a lot of work had gone into preparing this area, and that's when you kind of get some very, very quick reveals that sort of paint the picture of exactly what's been going on here.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, you're right. It was just like, it looked like the outside of a hangar, which it was.
Yeah.
There was a hangar there. There was a helicopter in this hangar, and there's a bunch of spotlights. It felt like, very military, like, with,
Yes.
they're just sitting there waiting for something to happen, and then it happens, and the pod lands, just comes out of nowhere, I guess, and this was an interesting sequence. There was a lot of, like, the pod landed, and then it faded to black, but then it
Yeah.
faded back in, and then they're coming out, and then it faded it was like a weird sequence of events. I really didn't know what was happening, why they were choosing to edit that scene that way. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
the pod's back. Kentaro's there, and he's just like, "What's up, guys? How you doing?" Like,
Yeah.
very unceremonious, just like, "Hi." I don't know, like, if they didn't give him enough to do during the second half of the season, that he's just like, I'm just gonna go, "Hi, guys," and that's the greeting you're gonna get, and we're
Yeah.
good. Hey, it's good to see you. Good to see you. You were gone in the center of the earth for a little while, but, like, I'm here. Hey, but he's there. He hugs Kate, and Hiroshi's there, and he hugs Kate, and it's like a nice little family reunion. And I just
Yeah.
love this sequence, this shot here, that, like, it was a little bit of a wider shot, and you see Keiko and you see Hiroshi, you see them, their eyes, like, finally meet, and it's just like a lingering shot for a second, and then he basically is just
Yeah.
like, "Mama," he says, "Mama," and I was like, "Oh," and he just goes, and they
Yeah.
they hug each other for a bit, and it was a very sweet moment.
She's saying "I'm
Um,
so sorry" over and over again as well.
yeah, that was
I
that
think
was a
that
really
was the
great
moment
scene.
that made me start crying.
Yeah. It was a great moment. I loved it a lot, but interrupted by Brenda appears, and I'm like, "Who's
Yes.
Brenda? Who's Brenda?" I forget who Brenda is, but I was
You
like,
used her
"Okay, all
name
right, I
this
remember."
time, well
What's
done.
that? Yeah, I got a
You
name. I
used
got
her
a
name this
boss
time.
lady. What did I call her last time? Boss or something?
Boss lady, yeah.
But and I was like, "Oh, Brenda's here, which means Apex is
Yeah,
here."
yeah,
And Tim
and
is basically
Tim,
like, "It's complicated."
yeah.
So
I
he's
was
just
like, "Oh
admitting
my
it right
god."
then and there. It's
Yeah.
complicated, you know?
So that's kind of crazy to me because that explains why we're not seeing these characters come back and meeting some of the other Monarch characters that we've discussed because
Mhm.
they're not being rescued by Monarch at all. This is entirely an Apex operation, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, and it's complicated because there's a lot that's happened over the past 2
2
years. And I was
years.
like,
Yeah,
"Thank God," because dude, as soon as Kentaro showed up, I was a little like it was such an odd scene. I felt like there was
yeah,
a lack of emotion between him and them showing up. Um, and I was like, "Dude," like we talked about it last week that like if there was all these gaps of time, why wouldn't they be popping up in, 2030 or somewhere
yeah,
far down the line? Um, but uh but luckily, like I was first afraid. I was like looking at Kentaro. I was like, does he look aged? Does he look like he's got any gray hairs? Like anything different? And then
you're
Hiroshi
like
pops in. I was like,
pausing and saying again.
yeah, Hiroshi's there. I'm like, oh, maybe he's a little bit older. I don't know. I can't tell. And then luckily they did comment that like it's been 2 years, and I was like, all right, that's
Yeah.
like that'll do. That's okay. I'll deal with that. Which means it's 2017. Which
Yes.
I
So
don't know
we're
if
now
that's
smack bang between Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters.
yeah. King of the Monsters. I don't know when did that come out? 2019.
2019. Yeah.
So was it? I don't know if the timeline was a timeline
I think it's set
2019.
in 19, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So 2017 is actually when Godzilla versus Kong came out, which is fitting because we do get like there's like something going on. There's a lot
Yeah,
happening. I think maybe some sirens or something, and they all
yeah.
scurry into the facility. And we pan up and we see Skull Island Research Station. And
Yeah,
then, dude, up and over the hill, it's storming out. It looks exactly like it did in Godzilla versus Kong. And, dude, the king himself appears up
yeah,
over the cliff and just like, boo, like I'm like, oh man, Kong, dude. I'm like, yes,
yeah,
this is so great. I couldn't believe that Kong was here. I was like, I was hoping that Kong would get like a little bit of a feature, and luckily Kong was there.
he
So I'm
did.
so just what a way to end. We get this. We're on a new facility in Skull Island, which is where
Yeah,
we find out in Godzilla versus Kong that there's a storm that's been taken a hold of the island and killed off those the people that live there, and um, they've created that indoor facility, that's
yes.
got those cool reflective panels and stuff that
Yeah,
make it look like it's the outdoors. And at the same time, he's getting too big. They can't keep him there, in this facility. So they do end up shipping him out. But, I was just, I was wondering at that moment, I've watched that movie a bunch of times over the past few weeks. And I don't remember, is it a Monarch facility in that movie, or is it
it
nothing?
is.
Is it
So if you bear with me 2 seconds, I will confirm which one it is for you. But it is very much a Monarch facility. It is Outpost 236.
okay? So yeah, yeah, it just begs a lot of questions that they leave us with here at the very end. Like, of course, we want to know more about the family drama and like where does this lead
Yeah.
everybody? That kind of just ends. Lee Shaw being maybe potentially stuck again, and
I want to know more about Apex, baby.
yeah, and of course, Apex. We got them showing up, and what is this relationship? Obviously, with this research station that has been previously notated as a Monarch station. So we
Yeah.
still
And
have
it is a
obviously a
Monarch
lot of
station again
years.
in the future. So what
Yeah.
happens between now
Yeah, that's what
and
I mean.
GV?
Like it's clearly like they've got their stuff there, but they obviously set up a team or some sort of like uh, you know, communication line with them with Monarch and Apex in this show, right? Like there was
Yeah,
I forget at what point, but there was like an episode where they were like gonna kind of work together a little bit.
it was
Um
episode 7. Yeah.
Okay. Um, And then we don't really know anything about that during Godzilla King of the Monsters. I don't feel like we didn't hear anything about Apex. It's just Monarch, and they've got basically spaceships and crazy, technology. Um, but it's very possible that in the background Apex is there building these facilities, helping them out. And then I don't know. Maybe
The
they've
events in
cleared
DK
out.
happen. What I'm really curious to see how this ties into the new Empire, and whether we're going to see like more of Apex in that film, if we're going to see more of Monarch in that film, or actually if Kurt Russell's going to pop up.
Hmm. That would be awesome if they find that middle ground and they're like, "Whoa, who's this
Yeah.
dude? He looks 90 or no, whatever he is." But that would be awesome if he was just in there.
147.
I guess he wouldn't age at all. He would be perfectly fine. And they're like, "Dude, how long you been here?" And he's like, "I don't know, 12 days."
Yeah.
And it's by that time from 2015 when he left to 2024, that would be a decent gap
Yeah.
for him to be stuck in there. That would be awesome.
He comes back and Keiko's dead, Kate's dead, Kentaro's dead.
All taken out by Mothra or something,
Yeah.
it's just they were all in Boston. They're
Oh,
like, let's set up a research station in Boston, guys, and then it gets leveled. The guy's like, I've really wanted to go see a Red Sox game, right? And just completely leveled. So yeah, but that's the end of the episode. That was it. We got Kong as the very conclusion of that. So it's not necessarily a cliffhanger, but leaves us with a lot to question.
It leaves us wanting more.
Yeah. And it's very clearly not an ending. So I think while it's not a cliffhanger, it's definitely not an ending, and it leaves us wanting more, and hopefully we get that.
I think the interesting thing is it very much sets up to explore more of Skull Island, which could be a really, really cool direction for a second series to go. I think I was talking about this last week, actually, a series exploring the Iwi tribe and why they went extinct or whatever would be really interesting. And actually, I realized watching the new Empire trailer again that there is a human tribe in the Hollow Earth. So could theoretically be the same people. And I think there's a lot of interesting ground still for them to explore, not least with the story that they've been telling up until this point as well, in terms of these characters and what happens for them next.
Yeah, maybe that could pave the way for Rebecca Hall to pop up in this second season, because she plays the scientist who's stationed on Skull Island, and
That'd
she's
so cool. Yeah.
she is the person who is in charge at this station, and is the one who is studying Kong. So and she was in Godzilla versus Kong and in the new Empire. So so hopefully that would be nice. Get some
That would be such
connective
awesome
tissue though.
Tissue.
Yeah, but that's all we got. That's it. How you feeling?
Yeah.
You feeling good about this show and the history and the future and present and everything?
It was so good. I think they stuck the landing and then some, and I just really, really want more of it. I really hope that it's a success. I've heard that it's been a big success for Apple. So I hope that they see that and they renew it, because there's clearly a lot of story to tell in this universe. And I think it's like I was saying to you last time, the Monsterverse is so massive and expansive that telling a serialized story in it is quite a scary prospect. They absolutely knocked it out the park, and they stuck the landing better than Jurassic probably would have done.
Yeah, a lot of this series, we've been really comparing things to Jurassic and how would they have handled this or that, or would they connect these dots? And for me, it always comes back to the fact that Jurassic really doesn't have this history that this franchise does, and same with Star Wars or anything else that we compare it to, Marvel. There's just not that history. It's from the 80s to 90s to today, and that's it. There's no deeper meaning. There's no deeper anything. It's I don't know. We don't need to. We never like uncover dinosaurs that have been alive on this island for, that's not a thing. So it's like, it's hard to think about the future of what Jurassic could do television wise and other movies, because we all want to see these deep connections, but like, I just don't think Jurassic can handle it the way that something like Monarch has handled it so well. So unfortunately, there are paths for Jurassic to take, but to do something layered like this, I just don't know that we'll ever really get there.
No.
So
No.
where can people find you online if they want to talk more about Monarch, and then now into Jurassic, and maybe some chaos theory when that time comes?
Hell yeah.
Maybe some evolution, whatever you're playing these days. I don't know. You still playing that game?
I haven't touched it in about a month. But I will play some more soon. You can find me at Tom_Jurassic on Twitter and Instagram.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I obviously host the Jurassic Park podcast, and we haven't put out an episode just yet this year, but it's coming. It's coming very soon, so keep your eyes peeled. Probably Monday. We're going to be looking forward to 2024 and seeing what Jurassic can bring for us. But we've got live streams coming up and all kinds of fun stuff. I did a bunch of audio dramas. Yeah, we've got a lot of episodes planned out and stuff. But in the meantime, I'm also on my other show, Grim Grinning Hosts, talking about theme parks and all kinds of stuff. We just did a prediction episode for 2024. It was so much fun, like predicting things that could potentially show up in the future in theme parks. But had a great time. Check me out on Letterboxd. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time. No, next season maybe. I don't know. I gotta find the outro. Bye.
Bye.